know, as always, I say this pretty much every show with at least one person's name. I'm sure I butchered the pronunciation of that man's name. If I did, I'm sorry. Mikio Hirano. We're going to go with that. Who designed the treatment, said in question, will also be allowed to present more evidence in court on Monday. Now, Friday's court proceeding came as Gard and Yates released a new photo this week that they say proves that the 11-month-old child, Charlie, is not actually blind, as doctors claim he is. The photos show Charlie hooked up to a life support machine in his hospital bed with his eyes open and a toy being held in front of him. And the picture's right up there. If you want to look at it, you can go to foxnews.com. In the photo, the child does see those eyes have life in them. I know that's not really a compelling or it's probably not even a medical case to make. I'm just saying, if we're just judging it based on that photo, the child doesn't look brain dead. You can go over to foxnews.com and judge for yourself. But even, let's say the child was. And I've had so many people on my Facebook page claiming this is not a case against socialized medicine. To heck it isn't. It's a pretty clear example of, here's a nation that's allowed their government to invade every facet of their life. And now they get to be judge, jury, and executioner on who is worth even an attempt in saving and who isn't. Who's entitled to the resources in the health system? That's for the government to decide. In the socialized healthcare system. It's an evil system. It's an immoral system. And a friend of mine, who's a paramedic, even noted that what's happening in this Charlie Gard case, quote, breaks sharply from everything healthcare professionals do on a daily basis. I'm going to read his post from you on this. Very insightful, and it's great to hear from somebody that's actually in healthcare explain why this is evil. I'm not going to name names because I don't want to put people's names out there if they don't want their name out there, but he's a friend of mine, and he's a paramedic. I'll go ahead and read it. Quote, I am a paramedic, a laboratory worker, a phlebotomist. My colleagues and I cause our patients pain every day. Now, I'm going to end quote for a second and note that the common argument, not only with this Charlie Gard case, but with eugenicists, people who advocate, the people who advocate for assisted suicide because the pain is just too great. There was a story back in 2014 in Time magazine. Belgium extends euthanasia law to kids. Belgium became the first country in the world to remove any age restrictions on euthanasia after an emotional debate which split the medical profession over the best way to treat a terminally ill child with a desire to end his or her life. I know that story's about 3 years old now, but it leaves me speechless. Oh no, but there are some restrictions to it. He or she must be terminally ill, close to death, deemed to be suffering beyond any medical help. But who defines who's beyond help? Who defines close to death? Is there no room for hope anymore? Is there no room for miraculous recoveries that we've seen? It's always this quality of life argument. Well, who determines quality of life? Quoting back to the Time article, the child must be able to request euthanasia themselves and demonstrate that they fully understand their choice. I'd contend that most children don't understand how the world works and don't understand their choice. The request will then be assessed by teams of doctors, psychologists, and other caregivers before a final decision is made with the approval of the parents. It's the normalization of a culture of death. This article from a year ago by the National Review: Netherlands push to euthanize children. Euthanasia boosters are so full of baloney. Yes, it's an opinion article, but it gives good facts. To get the death agenda adopted, they promised the moon that medicalized killing will be strictly limited and always restricted to competent adults. Then once society widely accepts the killing as an answer to suffering, the age limit drops, because how in the name of compassion can a now right to die be limited only to adults? Belgium, as we talked about in the last article, has already legalized assisted suicide for children deemed mature enough to decide by their death doctor. If you want to read this article in full, it is at National Review. It is by Wesley J. Smith. I'm going to quote some more from it because, honestly, it highlights what is wrong in this society. We are normalizing a culture of death. And you're called crazy if you call this out. You're called a fearmonger if you call this out. But it's happening right in front of us. Let's continue. Again, this article by Wesley J. Smith, published last year on the National Review. It is a fantastic article. The Dutch Pediatric Association wants to get there too, where the current age limit, once 16, is now 12. But that's not low enough. From the De Volkskrant story via Google Translation, the Dutch Association of Pediatrics comes with the position after intense debate. If a child is incompetent, parents should be able to consult with the doctor to decide on euthanasia. The 12-year age limit for euthanasia is a problem. As pediatricians, they see in practice that even younger children will often be able to see the consequences of their decisions. Still, doctors are now allowed to do anything when a child asks between 1 and 12 years old for euthanasia. The NVK, which is the Dutch Association of Pediatrics, remember this is Google translated, the MVK therefore proposes to include real mental competence as a benchmark rather than chronological age. For children who cannot make the decision, the physician, in consultation with the parents, can decide. This happens already in children between 1 and 0, but doctors believe it should be possible for incapacitated children under 12 years old. Unquote from that article. Quote back to Mr. Smith's article. 2 points. Infanticide is still legally murder in the Netherlands. And yet, as the story admits, killing sick and disabled babies is an accepted part of Netherlander euthanasia practice, of Dutch euthanasia practice. You see, Mr. Smith points out, when it comes to euthanasia, protective guidelines and legal boundaries soon don't matter. Netherlands pediatricians kill babies in their cribs without consequence, proving that protective guidelines aren't worth the time it takes to read them. Note that the suffering would not have to be a terminal illness, which is not a required criterion for euthanasia in the Netherlands. This means a depressed child with disabilities who feels isolated or marginalized could ask for euthanasia and be killed. Perhaps even a mentally ill child deemed sufficiently competent to decide that life is not worth living by a death doctor. The culture of death is like the universe. Once set in motion, it never stops expanding, and so we continue with my pediatrician friend. My colleagues and I, quote, cause pain to our patients every day. We understand that this pain we are causing them is often worse than the illness that the patient is suffering from, but we do it because if we do not, the patient will die. And if we do, they might live. This is the catch-22 of healthcare. I have done some truly terrible things to people that they hated in the moment, and that I was the bad guy. But later they were thankful later. Their family members and their friends were thankful later because we were doing those things to help them. It breaks my heart to make a 5th IV attempt on a terrified and hysterical 2-month-old. And anyone standing in the room at that moment would think I'm the devil. But which is worse? Causing that child pain or letting him die of dehydration, quote unquote, with dignity? It's an extreme step in healthcare to withhold life-saving treatment. We never, ever do it unless we know. Let me stress that. Unless we know that the person is terminally ill and cannot be helped. And even then, that is worth stressing, even then, it is not a decision that we often make. I've only ever seen it when it was the wish of the patient, or when the patient was unconscious, terminally ill, or brain dead, or only has days or hours to live with all of the best treatment available. Withholding life-saving treatment on an infant who stands a fighting chance, even a small one. It's unheard of. That is why this story is making world news. That is why it breaks sharply from everything healthcare professionals do every day. Somebody who doesn't necessarily agree with my stance on the Charlie Gard case noted that if you follow that principle, and they noted first that we could still have public health care. I disagree with him. But noted that if we follow that principle that my paramedic friend mentioned of not removing life support, that even the state could not afford the operations the patient and its family and supporters, and that people would have to raise the money themselves, etc., etc., etc. Great point from my pediatrician friend here. And if you're listening, I thank you for defending life. You're a brother in Christ. I'm glad to call you a friend. That is the problem. Quote from him, the state, quote, not being able to afford it. Enter death panels. Now, unquote for a second. Yes, okay, for all the CNN and NBC talking heads that say, oh, death panels, there's no such thing as death panels, it's not a real term. Yes, okay, yeah, it's a symbolic term that the right made up for a real thing. They might as well be called death panels because that's what they do. It is the government deciding who gets to live, who is worthy of our resources. So, back to him, enter death panels. Where do you draw the line? Will it apply to people of all ages? Or just the elderly? Or just the young? Or just the unwanted? How do you place a dollar amount on the life of a child? But then, if it tapers off as you age, will people be scheduling their deaths based on when their health care will run out? Oh, it's a mighty slippery slope we're on. It's a mighty slippery slope that millennials and my generation and the generation after them, that socialists want to get on. Who's worthy of that medicine? Who's worthy of that treatment? Who would best serve society being treated for their cancer? An old lady in her 80s or a young, strong buck in his 20s? Oh, I'm sorry. Talking to socialists here. Buck, that's a cisgendered term. Everyone knows there are no genders. There is no truth. Life doesn't matter. You're just a number on a spreadsheet. You're just a cog in a machine. There's nothing. But we know that's not true. You're not just a number on a spreadsheet. You aren't just a cog in a machine. You aren't a slave to the government or to the healthcare system. Socialists can paint it up, put sparkles on it, make it look pretty. Pig is still a pig. A government big enough to give you everything is a government big enough to take everything. Thoughts and prayers with Charlie Gard. Nah, forget that. Not thoughts. Our prayers are with Charlie Gard. Our advocacy is for Charlie Gard and his parents' right to fight for his life. Sending warm thoughts, sending positive vibes, whatever. Whatever that even means. Advocacy. Speaking out. Charlie Gard has every right to live. His parents have every right to take him wherever they want to take him. They're his parents. They're his parents. So our prayers are with Charlie Gard and his parents. May God bless them. May God make a miracle happen and get them to the United States. Thankfully, they were granted citizenship. Somehow, some way, let's get them to the United States. And let's give this kid a fighting chance.
You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz for great radio. Get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
Hey everyone, we do not have sponsors, and by we, I mean me. I don't have any sponsors. So I want to take this time to tell you about some projects that are always at the top of my list and in the back of my mind. They're fantastic projects. The NazareneFund.org. For several years, ISIS has invaded peaceful communities in the Middle East and painted the Nazarene symbol on the door of people they seek to convert, extort, or murder. While ISIS uses the Nazarene symbol to symbolize death, we use it to symbolize life. Mercury One is a U.S.-based humanitarian aid and education nonprofit organization that established and administers the Nazarene Fund. The Nazarene Fund aids in the restoration of Christians and other persecuted religious minorities in their communities who have been targeted by ISIS for their faith. I want to make it clear, I am not endorsed by Mercury One. They have not paid me to say any of this, and I'm not directly affiliated with them in any way. Be that as it may, I think that what they're doing is extremely important, and I want to share it with you. So rather than push a sponsor for you right now, in large part because I don't have one, I want to share their mission with you and direct you to where you can go to help. Now, in 2014, the Christian community in Syria and Iraq were facing the greatest calamity in its 2,000-year history. The Islamic State, ISIS, exploded out of Raqqa, Syria, the capital of its self-proclaimed Islamic State. In a lightning strike that surprised the world, ISIS forces captured Mosul, Iraq's second-largest city, and all of nearby Nineveh plain, the traditional homeland of the region's Christian community. What followed was a campaign of extortion, murder, and displacement not only of the Christians, but of other ethno-religious minorities in the region. By 2015, a population of 3 million people was reduced to only 300,000, most of them displaced from their homes and fleeing to other countries. In August of that year, Glenn Beck took the stage, and the Restoring Unity rally in Birmingham, Alabama, declared the situation for it was genocide. Mercury One donors immediately responded, and the Nazarene Fund was launched with the goal of rescuing 400 families. No one at the time that realized that a movement was born, and over the course of the next 18 months, Mercury One has far exceeded its original goal, and the numbers speak for themselves. 1,290 families rescued, 5,202 people saved. Fortunately, the tactical situation is changing. Coalition forces have liberated most of Nineveh. Mosul will soon be under Allied control. An attack on Raqqa is imminent, and Mercury One is shifting its focus from rescuing to rebuilding and restoring the lives and communities of these persecuted people. We're so happy to shift this focus from providing immediate basic care for individuals to rebuilding and restoring communities by funding projects that will have a future impact on health and education for years to come. Mercury One funded projects include a medical clinic in Lebanon, a medical clinic in Greece, school in Beirut, Lebanon, a school in Athens, Greece, a mobile trauma center in Acre, Iraq, a trauma center in Al-Qush, Iraq, a community center in Nitra, Slovakia, and a transport van in Brazil. As their mission continues to evolve both internationally and at home, please continue to support all of Mercury One's efforts by donating now. To donate, go to mercuryone.org or thenazarenefund.org. It's a great cause. They need your help. If you're able to donate, I encourage you to donate. I encourage you to go, again, thenazarenefund.org, and donate if you can. God bless. Laus Deo. I want to talk to you about the 912 Project. Now, this is something we've discussed on the show a lot. And I mean a lot, and it's something we're going to discuss on the show a lot more. At the origin of America, our founding fathers built this country on 28 powerful principles. These principles were culled from all over the world and from centuries of great thinkers. We've distilled the original 28 down to 9 basic principles. And if you believe in at least 7 of them, then we have something in common. They've also added 12 values that represent the qualities of those who founded our country. If we can all live by these, we believe America can get back on course again. Now, their advisory board consists of some amazing conservatives and amazing people. Yvonne Donnelly, Maria Acosta, Michael Pelka from The Blaze, Stephanie Scruggs, Mimi Steele, Aaron Wilson, Jason Roberts from NetFusion Studios. All these people promoting the 912 Project, and I encourage you, this valued listener that we have here on the Lanterns Radio Network, to go to the 912-project.com to find these principles and values on their webpage, share it on Facebook, share it on Twitter. We're trying to start the 912 movement again. At least I am. And again, I want to make it clear, I'm not endorsed by these, but by this organization. I am not sponsored by them, but I believe that their mission is important. And what is their mission? The 912 Project is a volunteer-based, nonpartisan movement focusing on building and uniting our communities back to the place we were on September 12th, 2001, the day after America was attacked. The day after America was attacked, we were not obsessed with political parties, the color of skin, or what religion you practiced. We were united as Americans, standing together to protect the greatest nation ever created. Our goal is to bring us back to that same feeling of togetherness again. Our mission is to inspire individuals to connect with their communities through education, service, and dedication to the 9 principles and the 12 values to which we have committed. To find these principles and values, go to the 912project.com. That's the 912-project.com. The 912-project.com. Hey, it's Ian Ballinger from the Free Stater here on the Lanterns Radio Network. Now, most people listen to the show when it goes up every Friday at 7 p.m. Central Time on Spreaker, SoundCloud, YouTube, or even on your iPhone podcast app. But you can also listen to the show over at lanterns.buzz. That's lanterns.buzz, where the show plays on replay every weekday and weekend at 11 a.m. Central Time. Every day throughout the week, you can listen to the replay of the show on the lanterns.buzz radio stream. Aha! 11 a.m. Central Time and 3 a.m. in the morning. Just fantastic times. If you're driving out late, you can listen to the show. And if you're waking up in the morning, driving to work, going to lunch during work, whatever, show's available for you to listen to right there on replay. That's lanterns.buzz. And while you're over there, I encourage you to check out some of the other great shows that the Lanterns Radio Network has to offer. You've got Bells of Liberty, Todd Huff Radio, Battle for Freedom, Patriot Politics, Defenders of American Exceptionalism, The HollowNet, Fires of Liberty, Battlefield Live, The Conservative Syndicate, and many other special programs. You may have heard back during CPAC even, they did a huge live stream, continuous coverage of CPAC. Go to lanterns.buzz for great content. We're here to fix the machine. Lanterns.buzz. New story out from Lanterns Buzz. More on the culture of death in the world. The WNBA's Seattle Storm recently became the first professional sports team to publicly support Planned Parenthood, which is at risk of losing federal funding. The team said it would donate $5 of every ticket sold to Planned Parenthood for their Tuesday game. There were 8,358 people who attended the game, and that amounted to a $42,000 donation, according to the Seattle Times. In the liberal city of Seattle, the team has found strong support. Hundreds of people showed up at Tuesday's game holding pink "I Stand with Planned Parenthood" signs. Just charming people. But critics cried foul that the team would take such a political stance, A handful of anti-abortion protesters showed up at the game, and some abortion opponents slammed the team on social media. Nobody watches the WNBA anyway, so... What else we got? Oh. LGBT activists mock Christian ministry's decision to reclaim the rainbow. The man behind the world-famous Ark encounter has decided to reclaim God's rainbow, announcing the massive Ark exhibit will be permanently bathed in rainbow lights. We now have permanent new rainbow lights at the Ark encounter, so all can see that it is God's rainbow, and he determines its meaning in Genesis 6. Answers in Genesis founder Ken Ham announced on Facebook. The rainbow is a reminder God will never again judge the wickedness of man with a global flood. Next time the world will be judged by fire, he said. The 500-foot-long Ark is the centerpiece of the biblical theme park based in Williamstown, Kentucky. Hundreds of thousands of visitors have toured the replica of Noah's Ark. The Ark is lit permanently at night with a rainbow to remind the world that God owns it, and he decreed it as a sign of his covenant with man after the flood. Christians need to take back the rainbow as we do at the Ark encounter, Ham said. It's a nice gesture, but at the same time, it's not going to reclaim it from culture, from society, because, I mean, the world's just an evil place. That's what it is, you know. The LGBT movement is always going to have support from secular society, and as such, media will always portray the rainbow as a symbol for gay pride. As a Christian, I happen to agree with Ken. I think that the rainbow is a symbol of a covenant that God formed with man that said, I will never again flood the world. I got mixed feelings on Ken Ham. I remember a few years back he did an interview with Bill Nye, the science guy. Got to get to Bill Nye later today too. His show was nominated for an Emmy, his Netflix show, with that vagina song and the oh, my vagina has its own voice. That song, it was so dumb. That show was nominated for an Emmy. Have the standards for award shows gone down? I mean, it was renewed for a second season on Netflix, but I mean, what's the value in that show? The song is literally called "My Sex Junk Is So Oh," or something like that. It's ludicrous. But anyway, I think Ken Ham's heart is in the right place. He's actually producing this really good-looking movie called the Genesis movie or something like that. Really good-looking movie. Looks really creative. It's an animated CGI 3D rendered film. Looks really good. The director behind it was a guy that worked for like EA Sports or something like that. So, I mean, it looks really well made. But then, at the same time, he does this debate with Bill Nye. I think Bill Nye was really bad in that debate. I think Ken Ham was really bad in that debate. Both of them took a I'm right, you're wrong stance, and it was kind of dumb, but it was hyped up as this real... You know how the Conor McGregor whole fight is getting hyped up right now? It was kind of hyped up like that. Except it wasn't like that. It was really long and really boring, and nobody really said anything of actual substance. Not that I can remember. It wasn't memorable. It was hyped up like it was going to be this big memorable thing. It wasn't really memorable, but hey, I guess symbolically, I guess it's good, this whole Ark rainbow thing, because yeah, the Ark is a symbol of God. It's not a symbol of the LGBT movement, no matter how much secular society wants you to believe so. Here's another story on the college campus. Couple college campus stories, actually, for you. And it just shows the ludicrousy that is on the college campus in this day and age. I mean, you all knew it. You all knew that college campuses were crazy. We talk about at least one crazy college campus story at least once a week. Here's another one. A community college chancellor in California is proposing to get rid of the requirement that all students take intermediate algebra in an effort to boost the graduation rate at his institution. The chancellor of California Community Colleges System made the suggestion during a recent interview with National Public Radio, calling the requirement a civil rights issue. Specifically, Oakley said he wants to get rid of the requirement for any community college student who isn't a STEM major or focusing their studies in an area in the areas of science, technology, engineering, and math. Oakley said, "What we're proposing is to take an honest look at what our requirements are and why we even have them." He added that the college system he leads is going to look into other math pathways based on research at other colleges across the country. Oakley said those, quote, other math pathways should be actually relevant to the coursework that the student is pursuing. He took it one step further, suggesting that dropping the requirement would not only benefit students academically, but also portrayed it as a civil rights issue. This is also something that plagues all Americans, particularly low-income Americans. If you think about all the underemployed or unemployed Americans in this country who cannot connect to a job in this economy, which is unforgiving of those students who don't have a credential, the biggest barrier for them is this algebra requirement. It's what kept them from achieving a credential. Currently, sorry, that voice. Currently, the graduation rate at California community colleges is just 48%. According to National Public Radio, this includes the number of students who either graduate with an associate's degree and those who transfer to a 4-year college within 6 years of starting at CCC. Oakley didn't dispute the dismal graduation rate and further disputed that he's taking the easy way out by simply dropping the requirement. He said, no, he insisted, nothing could be further from the truth. Since the 1950s, we decided that the only measure of a student's ability to reason or do some sort of quantitative measure is algebra. What we're saying is we want as a rigorous course as possible to determine a student's ability to succeed, but it should be relevant to their course of study. There are other math courses that we could introduce that tell us a lot about our students. Look, here's the thing, yeah? I'm really bad at math. Math, so far in college, for those of you who don't know, I'm a junior in college. Math, as far as things go for my college career so far, I suck at it. I hate it. Got a hard time understanding it. I'm just really bad at math. I don't think we should do away with certain math courses just because some students, he's trying to, if you can't tell, he's trying to reach that quota of minority students graduated. He suggested that we replace algebra with statistics. Well, I don't know about you, but aren't statistics supposed to be harder? As much as I can't wait to start college this fall at KU, I'm starting to think, is this what all colleges think? Is college really becoming this pointless? UC Berkeley can't even get it right. UC Berkeley claims, this from The Blaze also, that they can't find venue for yet another conservative speaker, Ben Shapiro. Be afraid, Berkeley. Be very afraid. Ben Shapiro's coming for you. They get put on notice. From Dave Urbanski. First, first came the left-wing riots on the campus of the University of California, Berkeley, earlier this year over a planned speech by Milo Yiannopoulos. On the heels of that headline-grabbing disaster, the school seemed to do everything in its power to deep six a planned speech in the spring by another well-known conservative figure, Ann Coulter. And that is what came to pass. Coulter, who continually vowed to give her speech despite arbitrary harassing and restrictions, said that she had to cancel the event. The conservative group Young America's Foundation, the sponsor of Coulter's speech that was set for April 27th, told the Washington Examiner that Berkeley Dean of Students Joseph Greenwell emailed the group saying a safe and suitable venue for the event couldn't be found. Given currently active security threats, it is not possible to assure that the event could be held successfully or that the safety of Miss Coulter, the event sponsors, the audience, the bystanders could be adequately protected at any of the campus venues, the email said. Yet another figure, Ben Shapiro, who I hold is one of the most genius conservatives in the country. That's me saying that, not Dave. I don't want to attribute something he didn't said to him. Has been set to give a speech at Berkeley in September. And and wouldn't you know it, school officials just notified YAF and told them that they just can't seem to find a way to find an available campus venue for Shapiro's event. Berkeley's a pretty big school. Not community college size, not Bible school sized. It's a pretty big school. A lot of rooms. You're telling me. A lot of outdoor space, too. That would be fun, an outdoor event. What you're telling me is that Berkeley can't find a single room for Ben Shapiro to speak in. Oh, sounds to me like they just don't want the controversy of bringing a conservative figure to campus. Sounds to me like they're appeasing the violent group Antifa, which I want to make a note here. We haven't heard a lot from Antifa in the last month. It's been pretty quiet. That's a good thing. I'm glad it's been quiet. Antifa are violent terrorists. But it's weird. To be honest, I predicted that they would be doing this crap for like the next year or whatever, at least until Trump was out of the presidency, and I'm sure they're not done. I'm sure they're just taking a break. I mean, they're all lazy college students. They're all off on summer vacation right now. But regardless, it's not that they didn't have an event venue. It's pretty fitting that it's when conservative speakers want to come to campus that they don't have an event venue. But when a liberal speaker wants to come to campus, we have venues galore. No, it was appeasement to violent leftist group. And let me say this, it sets a really dangerous and bad precedent. Ben Shapiro actually made this point himself on his show, The Ben Shapiro Show, over at the Daily Wire. Great point. Sets a really dangerous precedent when universities and colleges go this route of canceling events because student reaction to that event might be violent. It shows that students, that these children, and I'm going to call them children because they sure as heck are acting like children, can get their way if only they throw a big enough fit. That's unacceptable. That goes against everything higher education stands for, as far as I'm concerned. I feel like as far as most conservatives would be concerned, I feel like as far as most people of higher education would agree with. We're going to appease people threatening violence. We're going to appease people threatening protest. Thankfully, this from the Daily Wire, on Thursday afternoon, after significant public attention to its initial statements that facilities would not be available on September 14th, to host the Daily Wire editor-in-chief Ben Shapiro, the University of California, Berkeley, announced in the press that they would not only facilitate the event moving forward, but would cover all necessary security fees. Well, that's a complete 180. I'm glad. But what led to you having this space so suddenly? I'm glad. I'm not complaining. I'm just wondering what happened. As of 1:30 p.m. Pacific time on Thursday, Berkeley had not reached out to the Young Americas Foundation, the sponsors of the event. According to the Foundation for Individual Rights and Education, it's clear that we have a number of workable options, said Berkeley's Assistant Vice Chancellor for Public Affairs. This event is going to happen. We just need to sit down with the college Republicans to talk through the details. He said it is unclear whether the Berkeley College Republicans had been informed of the news. This Assistant Vice Chancellor for Public Affairs said Berkeley reconsiders its initial denial of the college Republicans' request for a free, centrally located 500-seat campus venue. Berkeley initially said the college Republicans didn't follow, quote, the rules by pre-booking Shapiro before they asked whether the university had a room available. We didn't have any options in terms of the spaces available free of charge, but because of the extent of our commitment to free speech, okay, the campus will help fund any fees associated with hosting this event if need be. Okay, so maybe this is a step in the right direction for Berkeley. Yeah, I'm not going to hold my breath. The Berkeley College Republicans confirmed to the Daily Wire that they haven't heard from the administration directly. I haven't heard from Berkeley, Shapiro told the Daily Wire, but as a California taxpayer, I'm pleased to see that they're pledging to fulfill their commitment to the First Amendment. Now let's see them fulfill the pledge. Words without action will not be sufficient, obviously. And no, they won't. We'll be keeping you updated on that story as it progresses and as we get closer to September if Berkeley actually keeps their promise. This has been The Free Stater for this week. I'm Ian Ballinger. Thanks for listening. Go follow the Lanterns Media Network on social media over at Facebook and Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at Ian Ballinger 925. Have a great week. God bless Laos Deo from the plains of Kansas. Have a great one.
You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz. For great radio, get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.